And this one, although, as I say, the book is mostly recounts experiences in the 60s and 70s, in the final chapter, I mention that I could have taken events from any time in my life, and the music would still have resonated. And to illustrate that fact, I wrote about the time that I was very ill in the 90s, and I also wrote about coming here. I moved here with my lovely wife Carmen from England in 2004, and she convinced me to start playing guitar again. I had been a working... I'd been a working musician, but when I got sick in the 90s, I had stopped. And then I had a little comeback, which didn't last very long. And by the time I got here, I hadn't played for 8 years. Anyway, that's about this. Or this is about that. In 2004, I married for the second time and moved across the pond to be with my new wife Carmen in Porterville, in California's Central Valley. I found the transition to be incredibly difficult. From living in a cosmopolitan city of 8 million to a small, poor agrarian community of around 50,000, thousands of miles away, was difficult. I felt I did not fit in, not with Carmen's family, who did everything they could to welcome me, not with the community around me. I'd not been playing music for a few years at that time, apart from a one-off appearance in the encore of an Eddie Martin, Dick Hextall Smith gig a week before I left England for California. I was annoyed at myself that day. I was up there with one of the best British guitarists of the day, and arguably the greatest British sax player of all time, and I did not play well. I had vowed that night not to repeat the exercise. Carmen had other ideas though. I'd not brought any guitars with me from England to Porterville, but she kept encouraging me to play again. And one day, we spotted an old beat-up guitar at a swap meet that seemed playable, and Carmen's daughter Elena bought it for me for $10. I started playing tentatively again, and soon was playing electric once more, using borrowed equipment. In late 2006, Carmen and I attended a bluegrass festival at our local community theatre, Hallow Barn. One of the scheduled bands didn't show up, and a ragtag assortment of musicians, me included, was enlisted to busk their way through an impromptu set. I really enjoyed this, but more to the point, someone in the audience by the name of Robert Bartlett also did, to the extent of contacting me a few days later to see if I might be interested in forming a band. This was just the lifeline I needed to engage my interest in my new surroundings. The Bobcat Blues Band, the Three Peaks Blues Jam Band, made their debut a few months later. That band lasted less than a year, but the joy of playing live once more was palpable, however rusty I was. A few months after that band fell apart, Native American musicians Vern Vera and Benjamin Klein recruited Bob and myself to form a blues jam band, the Stepsons, firstly to fulfill a 3-date booking at the nearby Eagle Mountain Casino. In the next 5 years, the band went through many lineup changes, with Bob and myself the only constants. We played bar and club gigs locally, and a little while further afield in Visalia, Fresno and Bakersfield. This was not earth-shattering stuff. Sometimes we played really well, now and then not so well. But we always played with heart and passion, because I love music. It provides so much that is good in my life, I could not imagine a world without it. This year I've been beset with more medical problems, surgeries and multiple medical procedures 260 miles away in San Francisco. It's been a difficult year, made more bearable by the love and care from Carmen and by that wonderful constant in my life, music. All these years later, I still attend concerts and still get the same electric feeling I did during the first show I ever saw, all those years ago at the Golders Green Hippodrome. In May, Carmen and I saw Neil Young and Crazy Horse at the Bakersfield Fox. I was not well enough to stand up, unlike most of the audience, so I didn't get to see that much, but I did get to hear. And what I heard was magnificent, an affirmation of all that I ever loved about music. The show was challenging, joyful, exulting. Music might not make my life completely, There have been downsides, such as the not making much money thing, but it does completely make my life better. Long may that continue.